Well, there's several answers to that. I mean, the stories here range from the pretty ordinary. I mean, Sakandastapati is a pillar of his local, the idol maker in Swami Malai is a pillar of his local Lions Club, is a local businessman in a small town who's a Brahmin. I mean, very unexotic in all sorts of ways, except for the fact that he continues an ancient tradition of idol making. Then that on one extreme, ranging through to as exotic and wild a figure as you could imagine as the Naga sadhus in the Tarapet cremation ground. But part of the point of them is to humanize the exotic. I mean, these people exist. They're not figments of an Orientalist imagination. You know, these guys are real there. You see every Kumbela, how many of them there are. And the question is, what drives them? And the attempt is to take something which is an exotic freak show from a distance and find out who these human beings are. And Tapan Sadhu turns out to be from a middle-class background. He's got a son who's an accountant in Tata, in Calcutta, and he's an obsessive cricket fan. He sits there stark naked with his skull saying, in India 94 without loss. So it seems to me that it's far from exoticizing, I am humanizing a real institution that is there. I mean, India is not just Bangalore, Cyberabad, Marutis, middle-class Delhi, and NDTV. It is also Tarapet, the Kumbela, the great temples of the south, and the Baal tradition of Bengal. These things are not invented by Orientalists just to taunt Indian middle-class people who would like India to be only in their own image. You could make a case. I mean, Pankaj Mishra told me when he read this book that this was an India he grew up with in small-town India, which was very familiar to him, which he hadn't actually seen on the printed page. And I think there is a sense in which, people fear to write about the exotic for fear of being called Orientalist or exoticizers, but these are legitimate subjects, and they're certainly interesting subjects.
But how did you manage to cross the language barrier, which in a country like India, even a Desi would find difficult to deal with?
Well, show me any Desi that knows all 8 languages in which the interviews for this book turns out, and I will happily employ him on my next one. I mean, the languages we needed for this book were Bengali, Tibetan, Malayalam, Urdu, Bengali, Kannada, and Tamil, and so on. And no one speaks all those languages. So, using interpreters was a necessity for any project which is so pan-Indian. It would have been for a Desi writer too, obviously. What I hope I succeeded in doing, though, was to choose people that were interpreters in the wider sense of the word. Not just merely translators, but people who could help me see into a culture who, in their different ways, contained a key. For example, in Rajasthan I used Prakash Dandeta, who is the son of the great, who's the nephew of the greatest Rajasthani.
Sorry, good stuff that.
Prakash Dandeta is the nephew of the greatest poet of Rajasthan, Vijay Dandeta, and he's been a friend for 15 years. He speaks various Rajasthani dialects, but more importantly, he knows the folklore of Rajasthan like a few other people. I mean, since Komal Katari's death, probably Prakash's family are as well versed in Rajasthan's particular mythologies as anyone. And so, travelling through the Rajasthani landscape, I passed some trees that to me just looked like some trees. Prakash would say, this is an Aran. This is a sacred grove. It has a particular history. It's sacred to Gogaji, who's the snake deity. So, one was taught to see signs in a landscape which, to an outsider, as much to a Desi coming from to Delhi as a Farang coming from Scotland, would have been hidden. So, I think, again, you could make the argument that if you choose the right interpreters to come with you, which you might not have bothered to do otherwise, they can, if the people are the right people, they can open up much more than simply labouring ahead in Hindi across India with bad Hindi speakers would have done.
Because I read the introduction, that's why I formulated this question, that this book wouldn't have been possible without the interpreters.
But they're very one thing I have very, very careful to do was to choose good ones. So again, with the Baals, there's Mimlu Sen, the author of Baal Sphere, who knows the Baal world and was able to, whose job in a sense was as much to educate me in the ways of the Baals and the traditions of the Baals as it was to speak Bengali. And I think for a project like this you need both kinds of interpreters, not just the language but also the eyes to see. I have developed a love of Southeast Asia. In the last few years I've been travelling a lot to Cambodia and Burma. I'm going next week to Laos. But no, I think India has got enough for at least another 9 lives, another 9 incarnations. What I'm lucky with is that really, my hobbies I can integrate into my work. For example, my interest in the bows came from listening to one of Pavan Das's CDs. The Idol Maker came from an interest in Indian art and going to the Chola exhibition at the Royal Academy. And all these different interests, artistic, aesthetic, have led me to these people. Yeah. No, I mean, one is very lucky if one can make a living from one's hobby. Yes, I think I do. Though India's sheer pluralism has certainly eroded the Orthodox Christianity I grew up, Catholic Christianity I grew up with. If there is any lesson that India teaches, it is pluralism, that there are many mountains, there are many ways of looking at a mountain, and many ways up it.